EastFed Archives has adult language and violence and is not suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised. EastFed Archives is a Creative Typo entertainment production. If you enjoy this show, we invite you to support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Creative Typo. All levels of membership include ad-free listening, and our binge tier includes access to this complete season. Thank you for listening.
Chapter 13, Winter Warning.
Alright. Who's next on the list of the hidden?
I suggest that next we discuss the guides, as they're the next group of hidden with which you are most familiar.
Yeah, okay.
Guides have a natural intuition for pathfinding in both the physical world as well as the metaphysical world. They can navigate to almost any desired location, as long as they have the means of travel. They have an uncanny ability to avoid danger, survive with limited resources, and find locations, items, or people that they are searching for. In what you would define as a more supernatural capacity, guides assist individuals that are dying. They comfort them and ease their passing.
They're present with every person that dies? That seems like a lot.
No, not every death. Only for those individuals that would die alone, with no one to comfort them. In any scenario where a person appears to have died alone, there was actually a guide alongside to bring them comfort and help them pass over.
Pass over to where?
I am not positive.
But you are for sure saying that there's life after death.
There is most certainly life after death. It may not be in the form that you imagine, but it exists. Bodies decay, life grows from decay. Plants, bugs, bacteria, and the earth itself can all benefit and birth life from the death of a person.
That's not what I mean.
Your question is, does one's consciousness transfer to a heavenly, celestial plane of existence after it leaves the body here? Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I do not know. And I doubt September knows. His order simply fulfills their purpose.
What purpose is that?
To guide people.
Hastings, sometimes you're infuriating.
September frequently reminds me of that fact.
Fine. How do guides help dying people cross over?
I'm not exactly certain how the mechanics of the process work. There are other researchers within the chroniclers that have a better understanding of the guides. What I do know is that they are able to slow time during the moment of the person's passing. It appears to only impact the person who is dying and the guide that is connected to them. I believe guides do this by manipulating the independent reality of the dying person, just before death. Within that manipulation, they are able to project an image and sound that could soothe the dying individual. Guides are able to reshape reality based on these specific laws and circumstances.
Well, it's actually heartwarming to know that no one dies alone.
It is a fear amongst many humans. You are likely to find it quite pleasant, I'd presume.
Yeah, Hastings, that's a correct presumption.
Is there anything else you would like to know?
Yes, I feel like that was barely anything. Like, how do guides know who's about to die? Are guides immortal? If not, how long do they normally live? Do guides have families? Why do guides hunt anomalies? Do guides have a religion? I literally know next to nothing about them. I mean, Jesus, how were they born?
They see markers only visible to guides. No. Normally 400 to 500 years, although the oldest guide is just over 900 years old. In a fashion, but different than humans because anomalies are dangerous. Some guides have religion. And best that you ask September, that last one, regarding how they are born. You may think it is gross.
Hastings? You are seriously infuriating sometimes.
Between you and September, I will never forget.
Okay. How about this? Why do guides hate shifters so much?
That is a good question. Maybe we should discuss shifters next.
Detective George Bullard tossed the folder full of papers on his desk and collapsed into his cushioned chair. The case inside that folder should be an open and shut deal. A woman was murdered in her home. No forced entry. There were signs of a struggle in the kitchen. The boyfriend was previously convicted on multiple accounts of domestic abuse. His alibis were holier than Swiss cheese and stank worse than Limburger. Getting the arrest warrant was probably the easiest thing that George had done all week, and yet he did not feel good. That was the only word that came to mind for George. He just wanted to feel good about something. The case would still take an obnoxious amount of paperwork to get wrapped up. He needed to appear in court later in the day for a different case. The list of voicemails on his work phone was getting longer by the hour, and there was absolutely no desire to talk to any of the callers. He was exhausted. He felt worn down and lethargic. He couldn't remember the last time he had a good night's rest, or the motivation to hit the gym for that matter. It was just a never-ending stack of folders. Folders that held cases. Murder cases. When had he begun to resent this job?
You look like shit.
What was that?
I mean, you always look awful. I can't help it with that ugly mug you call a face, but lately you're looking like you could scare children.
Real funny.
I'm serious. Medicine has come a long way. You're not alone. I'm sure there's a doctor out there that'd be willing to take on your case.
See, your impression of Carrot Top doesn't end at the curly hair.
I mean, you don't have to worry about the pay. I bet they do it for free. It would help the whole world if we didn't have to look at you. Just a full-on pro bono case.
Davis, is there something you need? Are you just here to simply bask in my beauty?
Seriously, man, you need a break. When was the last time you took a vacation?
I don't know. When was the last time I visited your mom?
Oh, there he is. Glad to see you're awake.
Shut up.
Really, though, please take some time off. Go visit my mom. Lord knows she needs the company.
Do you even have a mother? I thought you were spawned from some monstrosity.
Same thing. Quit dodging.
I'll take some time off once I can put a dent in these cases.
There are always going to be more cases. Go talk to the chief. Get your name on a week before all the rookies gobble up the holidays.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Speaking of which, you got any plans for the holidays?
Double pay sounds nice.
You're going to work?
I don't see why not. 'Tis the season for homicide.
Morbid, but fair. Why don't you take Thanksgiving weekend off and come spend it with me and my family?
Will your mother be there?
Ha ha, one shittier mom joke is about all I can stomach before lunch.
Hey, you started this.
Come on, what do you say? Dinner with me? The family?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not much of a holiday person, but your husband cooks a mean bird.
I'll tell him you said so.
Hey, I have to bounce for the rest of the day. I got court, and I want to grab an energy drink on the way. Maybe they'll pick me up.
With your old-ass heart, that's gonna kill you.
Maybe. Then I could skip court. Count that as a win.
Oh, hey, before you go. Someone dropped this envelope on my desk for you. Just because we're partners doesn't mean I'm gonna start being your personal little mail boy.
What is it?
I don't know. I have my own files to go through. I'm not interested in yours unless the chief says I have to be.
Fair enough.
What is it?
Thought you said you weren't interested.
I said I'm not interested in reading your mail. I'm still nosy.
It's from a Wisconsin PD. Racine?
What do those cheeseheads want?
Nothing. They sent photos. Looks like still frames from a gas station security camera.
Pictures of who? Brett Favre?
Marcus Baker.
Oh, fuck me. Hiding out in Wisconsin? Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, photos are dated from 6 months ago. I doubt he's still there.
Sounds about right for a Wisconsin PD. Only 6 months behind the rest of the world.
What do you have against Wisconsin? Do you have family there?
Yeah, and they're Packers fans, so they're pretty much dead to me.
What the fuck?
What? What is it?
Look who's in that photo, that angle right there. Gas station photo with the front view of the car.
Those two women?
Yeah.
Who are they?
That one there I don't recognize, but this one, that is Emily Swanson.
The girl with those two annoying friends?
Yeah.
What does the report say?
Looks like it's a report of a murder scene.
Emily?
No. Guessing the other woman in the photo.
You need to hand that off to the captain. It isn't your case anymore.
I know.
I'm serious, George.
I know.
You need to hand it to him and walk away.
I said I know. I'll do it as soon as I get back from court.
George...
I gotta go. Let me know if I get any more mail.
Sure, George. I'll do that.
Emily clicked the Add to Cart button, placing a second bag of dill-flavored potato chips into her order. She felt no shame for her impulse purchases. If she had to be stuck in a house, hiding from police, the Contra, and whatever else might be hunting her, she would snack how she damned well pleased. September had told her that she shouldn't go into town for groceries, because it wouldn't be safe. That made sense to Emily, but she noted that they would still need to eat. September resolved that concern by leaving her a laptop and one of his credit cards. Emily assumed that someone as old as September would likely have a lot of money squirreled away. He owned multiple properties and was at least a few hundred years old. He had money, she hoped. She clicked Proceed to Checkout and then looked over at Marcus. He was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, and holding a cup of coffee in his hands. That was at least his fourth cup of the day. Emily thought that seemed excessive, but she said nothing. He was entitled to his own comfort foods or drinks or whatever. Instead, she looked back at her laptop screen and clicked Order Now.
Grocery orders in and will be delivered tomorrow morning.
Great. I should have asked you to order more blankets.
Are you really that cold?
Yes, it's freezing in here.
I would hardly call this freezing.
My fingers are icicles.
You are so dramatic. Weren't you raised in Chicago? You should be used to the cold.
Just because I grew up in Chicago doesn't mean I have to be used to the cold, or enjoy it for that matter. I'm Latino, and we aren't meant for this type of weather.
Then turn the heat up.
I will, once I can get the blood to circulate in my legs again.
Oh my goodness, Marcus. I'll do it. Are you always this dramatic?
You think this is bad? Wait until I catch a cold.
I can only imagine.
What does the thermostat say?
It says the heat is set to 65, but it's only 60 inside.
Turn it up to 70.
Okay.
Wait, no. Make it 75. It's not like we pay the bills here, and September and Hastings can cover the cost of a little extra heat.
All right, 75 it is. Happy?
Yes, thank you. I am going to light the fireplace.
All right. Speaking of September and Hastings, how do you think they're doing?
I'm sure they're just fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. I guess I mean, what do you think they're doing at the Chronicler Archives?
I assume they're trying to figure out how your powers work.
If that was in the archives, don't you think Hastings would already know?
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Hastings is a peon, like us, and he doesn't have access to everything.
I guess that could be true.
Maybe he's trying to find out more information about you. Or maybe he's reporting back what he learned about you, and they're going to continue to study us like lab rats.
I don't think Hastings is reporting on us. From the way he and September talked, it seems like they're breaking the rules by keeping us alive.
I do have a theory about all this.
What's that?
What if Isfet isn't really chaos after all? Maybe you're just very powerful, and they use Isfet as an excuse to keep anomalies controlled.
Chroniclers can't lie, though, so if Hastings says Isfet is chaos, then it is.
You said that chroniclers can't lie, but they can give misinformation, right?
Yeah.
So, if Hastings is a peon with the chroniclers, maybe he has been manipulated to believe that Isfet is chaos. It could be a loophole by his leaders. Maybe they lie through omission, and the rest of the chroniclers just believe the misinformation.
That seems like a lot of work to manipulate each other. And the chroniclers don't really seem like they work that way.
You've only met one so far, and he's strange. You can't make a decision about all chroniclers based off what we know about Hastings, right? I mean, that doesn't really make sense. It could all be a ruse.
You're right. But I need to believe that Hastings and September are good and that they're here to help. I mean, what other option do I have right now?
True. Sorry. I didn't mean to stress you out.
You didn't. I'm fine. I'm just curious what they'll find in the archives.
I'm sure they'll find something useful. Maybe something to do with why you can see different colors in your lines.
Or how to decipher these dreams?
Or how to make me normal again.
Marcus.
What? I don't want this. I don't want to be special or a harbinger or whatever I am. I want to go back to the way things were.
Even if that means going back to jail? Probably prison?
Well...
And what about all the lives you can potentially save with your visions?
I mean...
If you went back to being normal and I stayed an anomaly, I could potentially hurt people. A lot of people. Just like at the police station.
You don't know that the police station was your fault.
Marcus, we do know that.
Maybe they can make you normal again as well.
No, Marcus, I'm not a human. I never was. They can't change me back to something that I never was to begin with. This is my normal.
Well, I am human.
A human with powers. Would you really give those powers up, even if it meant giving up the ability to save thousands of lives?
Yes.
That's selfish.
So what if it's selfish? Why should I help them? Why is it my responsibility? Those people don't give a shit about me or you. They would gladly toss me in prison and throw away the key.
Marcus, it wasn't my choice to have these powers either. I'm sorry this is happening to us, but we can't change this. And maybe you're right. Maybe those people don't deserve our help. Maybe you'll never be recognized as a hero and people will always see you as a criminal. But you're the only thing keeping me from hurting the people around me. That makes you the most important person in the world. To me.
At least until you find the next harbinger.
Marcus.
I'm sorry. I really am. Maybe it's just that I'm stuck in this house. It's so cold outside and I'm just overwhelmed. I feel trapped. And unfortunately, you're the only person for me to vent to.
It's okay. I get it. How about we give this topic a break for a little bit? I'll grab us a bottle of wine and we can enjoy the fireplace. I heard the heater kicked on, but it doesn't seem to be getting any warmer in here yet, so I'll grab a few more blankets too.
As Emily returned to the common room with a bottle of wine in one hand and 2 glasses in the other, she noticed that Marcus had not moved closer to the fireplace. He stood in front of the couch and lightly swayed back and forth. As she opened her mouth to tease him for whining about the cold, she was stopped short by the sight of her friend. Marcus had gone quiet while she opened the bottle of wine and grabbed the glasses. Emily had assumed that he was simply stewing on their conversation, but now she could see something was wrong. His eyes were wide open and had gone completely blue. They were not a nimbus blue like one would see in a cartoon or supernatural television show, but instead they looked as if the iris had expanded to cover his entire eyeball. This would be eerie enough, but Emily knew that Marcus didn't have blue eyes. His eyes were naturally brown, dark brown. In Marcus's own perception, he had walked across the room to stand in front of the fire as Emily had left to get the wine. The fire felt wonderful. For the first time in days, he actually felt warm. He heard a sudden knock at the door and twisted his head over his left shoulder to peer down the hallway. Emily had opened the door already. That was fast. She must have been standing near the entrance for some reason. As the door finished swinging open, Marcus's stomach sank. The creature standing in the doorway was not human. The entity was a faceless monstrosity. Horror-struck, Marcus attempted to call out, but fear gripped his throat, choking the noise from his lips. The faceless thing lifted its left hand. In its hideous claw rested a red apple. The scene reminded Marcus of a picture book he had as a child, when the Bruja gave the poison apple to Snow White. Just like the princess in the story, Emily could not see the danger. She wasn't afraid of the creature, nor to take the apple. As Emily lifted the apple from the monster's left hand, the creature lifted its right hand to display 3 raised finger-like claws. Marcus knew that was important, but didn't know why. Emily turned to show the apple to Marcus. Her face was pleasant and smiling. She said Marcus's name in an urgent, fearful tone.
Marcus!
Her voice did not match her smile. She sounded panicked, but appeared calm.
Marcus!
The creature behind her lowered its right arm and lifted its chin. The featureless face split down the middle from top to bottom. Sharp razor blades layered the inside of its mouth. They didn't look like teeth, but instead were flat and thin like actual razor blades. Marcus finally was able to let out a warning scream for Emily to move away from the demon, but it was too late. The creature sank its rows of razors into Emily's shoulder, neck, and chest. Its maw was huge, and the bite tore through her body with ease. As the monster ripped flesh away from Emily's torso, the nearby kitchen table began to lift from the ground and rise into the air. Emily again shouted Marcus's name,
Marcus!
but her expression still did not match the scene, and her voice seemed more concerned for him than her own well-being. Only seconds later, more items began to rise. Furniture, the kitchen island, the stove, the walls, and eventually the house in its entirety all lifted into the sky, leaving only a patch of flooring beneath Marcus. The creature's mouth sank back into Emily's body a second time and latched on. Emily did not even struggle as the creature drained her life away. The house formed into a large, melded structure that resembled an upside-down pyramid. The tip of the inverted pyramid hung just above the creature's head and back. Just as Emily closed her eyes and exhaled her final breath, the reconstructed pyramid house collapsed down on the creature and Emily. Even though Emily was clearly dead, he could still hear her calling his name.
Marcus! Marcus!
Marcus woke to find Emily standing directly in front of him, lightly shaking his shoulders and wearing a panicked expression.
Jesus, Marcus, what the fuck was that?
I had a vision. And I think I know what it means.
Agent Dubois and Agent Blanc of the Contra's 31st Division were dispatched to a lovely little town named Dover, Wisconsin. The partners flew into O'Hare, then took a puddle jumper to Milwaukee, where they rented a car and drove the rest of the way to the Contra-owned cabin just outside the Eagle Lake area. By the time the two agents arrived at the cabin, the police had come and gone. The entrance was barred with yellow police tape that announced to all that the cabin was the scene of a crime and common folk are not allowed entrance. As was their custom, the two agents ignored the tape and investigated the cabin. They recovered the surveillance cameras that had been hidden in the walls, as well as the local hard drive that stored the camera footage. This case would likely remain unsolved by the Racine County Sheriff's Department, but it would be no fault of their own. They simply didn't know what they were looking for. On the other hand, Agents Dubois and Blanc did know, and they would find their marks and eliminate them. Hastings and September were a duo that were well known among the Contra. The chronicler and guide had been around for multiple lifetimes and had been in the center of several catastrophic events. When Agent Harp was deployed to Chicago, she was not aware that the two Inhumans she would need to kill were September and Hastings. She was a young agent and didn't have enough experience to take on those two. It wasn't her fault, and it wasn't HQ's fault. No one could have known that they were the ones in Chicago. At least that is what Dubois noted in the files as they traveled back to the Windy City. Once in Chicago, the agents connected the police department explosion to Emily Swanson. They also investigated the Last Strip Cafe, made connections with Emily's friends Sam Wilson and Amber Lang, and found ties to Marcus Baker and his extended family. The two spent several months looking for anything that would constitute a solid lead, but September knew how to cover his tracks. It wasn't until Blanc hacked the cafe's banking information and found credit card transactions belonging to September that the two were able to pick up the trail. HQ was able to run that credit card number for additional activity and found a happy little path leading all the way to Montana. The agents rented a new car, checked out of their hotel, and left Chicago for Montana. Blanc drove while Dubois booked their next hotel and submitted their current report back to HQ. As dictated by Contra's standing operating procedures, most of the critical details were handwritten on paper and housed in a folder. They would send some information digitally, but key pieces of information would only be hand-delivered. A little bit of healthy paranoia was good for a secret agency of Contra's nature. While the agents did not know exactly where September was staying, they were confident that he was with Hastings, Marcus, and Emily. Why the Inhumans hadn't killed the anomaly yet was another oddity, but maybe it had something to do with her chaos. They would find out the answers to all their questions after they got to town and did some investigating, or so they had planned. Dubois and Blanc had been in town for a little over 22 hours before shit hit the proverbial fan. By hour 23, the corpses of Agent Dubois and Blanc were stacked in the bathtub of their shared motel room. A third corpse, one wearing a grocery delivery uniform, sat propped up on the toilet in that same bathroom. All three men were killed in a similar fashion, with deep cuts across each throat and midsection. Gore was splattered across the floors, beds, lamps, walls, and ceiling. The gruesome image was sure to scar whatever cleaning crew discovered this mess tomorrow morning. The assassin tilted the head of the third corpse, and then looked back into the mirror. They were satisfied with the job they had done. With a predator's grace, they soundlessly glided out of the bathroom, turning off the light and closing the door behind them. They picked up the file that Dubois had been using to collect case notes, and then exited the motel, leaving the carnage behind. As the motel door closed, the assassin reached down to collect the ball cap that the delivery driver had dropped. They brushed at a speck of blood on the hat, smearing the speck into a more noticeable smudge. Murder can be so messy sometimes. They placed the cap on their head, pulled the car keys out of their pocket, and began to whistle a cheerful tune as they made their way to the car. Emily Swanson is voiced by Tisha Zang. Marcus Baker is voiced by Nico Rodriguez. Hastings is voiced by Adam Culbertson. Detective George Bullard is voiced by Anthony Kinney. Detective Davis is voiced by Glenn Michael Saxton and narrated by Michael Cole. Ispet Archives was written by Nico Rodriguez in collaboration with Tisha Zang. Ispet Archives is a Creative Typo Entertainment production. Find out more about our show at www.creativetypo.com.
A very special thank you to our executive producers from Patreon, Nick Mead and Patrick T. Arsenal.